Hi, Evan Montes of Call Throne, and I wanted to reflect and react to the message of Savannah Guthrie, the host of the Today Show, whose mother was kidnapped a few months ago and who is still missing. She shared a very powerful and emotional speech, and I wanted to reflect on it because she said something that could be considered, or is considered, controversial. That she is disappointed with God, or at least she was disappointed with God. Let's just look at that part where she says this. I recommend watching the whole speech. I think it was very beautiful, but let's just focus on this particular part. I wanted to talk about it a little bit.
We celebrate today the promise of a new life that never ends in death. But standing here today, I have to tell you, there are moments in which that promise seems irretrievably far away, when life itself seems far harder than death. These moments of deep disappointment with God, the feeling of utter abandonment.
So considering her experience and what she's going through, is it okay to be disappointed with God? Do we have a right to be disappointed with God? Especially as Christians, as people who believe, who have faith in God's love and protection. As far as I know, they are devout Christians. So what happened? Why would God allow such a thing to happen to his children? The answer to that question is, I don't know. I don't know why this happened. I don't know if there's a light at the end of the tunnel, if there's going to be a miracle to this story, or if this is just a worst case scenario, as is the probable outcome the more and more time goes by. So I have no idea about that incident in particular, but I would like to take this opportunity to kind of look technically at the Bible, technically what is offered there, and offer technical advice as to protection. Part of God's promises include protection. However, there are instructions. There are technical elements, things that need to be observed, put into place, practiced, initiated, activated, etc. And something I really want to teach on this channel, I want to take the opportunity to pass on, is certain parameters that I have compiled, I would say, into a kind of a toolkit to better understand the Bible. One of these parameters, I call it bidimensionality, nothing original, it's just something that I think can be applied to the Bible, to our understanding, to our study of the Bible, and it just really gives us a lot of understanding, a great deal of understanding, in my opinion, about how to interpret the Bible that, many times the Bible can seem confusing or difficult to understand, and I think this parameter of bidimensionality offers a lot of clarity in terms of our understanding of the Bible, of God, of life in general, and so on and so forth. So the whole concept comes from the very beginning in Genesis, the creation of man, how man was created. It's something to really analyze and reflect on. And the creation of man is something that we can kind of analyze and dissect and find this bidimensionality that I'm talking about. If you look at the language, it says man was created from the breath of God and the earth of the ground. Basically, it's talking about two elements. Why two elements? I mean, considering how complex human biology is, why does the Bible narrate man's creation with such simplicity, mentioning only two ingredients, to say it that way? The argument is that it's because it's showing that one ingredient is spiritual. It comes from the inside of God, from the spiritual dimension. The other element is physical. It comes from the outside physical world, from below. So from above and from below, these two elements meet at a certain point and create man. The argument being that the Bible is saying man is created from the physical and from the spiritual, from these two dimensions into one being. He is a bidimensional being. Therefore, he will have things for his physical life and things for his spiritual life. The point of presenting this parameter of bidimensionality is because I think there is a huge mistake in popular Christianity where there is a before and after mindset, which basically goes that before, God was like this and like that in the Old Testament, but now in the New Testament, all these things have changed. Everything is different. We are this and that by faith, by grace, by love, by patience, and all these beautiful fruits of the Spirit. And I think that is a very big mistake, making obsolete the old because something new came, or thinking that these two things, Old Testament, New Testament, and their contents, are in contradiction to each other. That kind of mindset, I think, leads to a lot of misinterpretation, especially with things like Jesus saying not one jot or one tittle of the law shall pass. Even though he said that, Christians still in their mind, they say, yeah, it didn't pass because he fulfilled it, so it's fulfilled, so now it's passed. It's just, it doesn't really make sense. So basically the concept of bidimensionality is that, there's things of the physical and there's things of the spiritual. The Old Testament focus on more on things of the physical, the New more on things of the spiritual. That's why the New Testament is very emotional. It speaks more of faith, love, patience, redemption, forgiveness, things that are from the heart, from the inside of man, the spirit of man, while the Old Testament is about do this, don't do that, the laws, obedience in this sense, which is about the outward manifestation of man in this world. So the spiritual does not cancel the physical. And I think that's just not controversial at all. But Christianity really needs to understand that concept. So basically, we have physical bread and we have spiritual bread, which is Jesus, the Word of God. So when Jesus comes to give us spiritual bread to nurture our spirit, that does not mean we don't have to eat physical bread anymore. Our body still needs physical bread. Spiritual mechanisms do not replace the physical mechanisms. So that's just kind of obvious. There is protection in the Bible. There is promise of protection, both in the spiritual and in the physical. However, one does not cover the other. One does not replace the other. Both have their mechanisms. So yeah, God, he protects our heart. He protects our mind. He protects our soul, our spirit. However, for the physical, there are other instructions, and these instructions come from the law. And popular Christianity does not follow the law. It does away with the law, saying the law is past, or just for the Jews, or is obsolete, or is done away with, or it was nailed to the cross. And yet, so much of physical protection, the mechanisms, the promises of physical protection are through the law of God in the Old Testament. So let's just do an example. Let's look at some of the benefits, some of the consequences of following the law. Some of those consequences you'll find in Leviticus chapter 26. I'm going to show you here. I hope you can see it well. Some of those rewards include physical protection as seen in verse 6. I will grant peace in the land, and you will lie down, and no one will make you afraid. I will remove wild beasts from the land, and the sword will not pass through your country. Okay, so that's a promise of protection that is through the law. So again, this has nothing to do with the incident that happened with Savannah's mother, but in just a technical sense and a technical discussion here, what I would recommend as a Christian is to cover all bases in terms of what God promises. Cover all bases. So there's faith in Jesus, faith in his promises, all those spiritual elements. There's also law, the law of God in the Old Testament. Observe these laws, practice these laws, and reap the promises of this covenant, which includes physical protection from enemies. There's also the issue of tithing. Tithing has become controversial in Christianity, incredibly. Again, is that before and after mindset that exists so much in popular Christianity, where before I had to give 10%, now I can give freely. That just does not exist in the Bible anywhere at all. I'll even show you that. It's right there in Deuteronomy 12:6. We have the complete listing of what God considers offerings. Let's look at it real quickly. It's Deuteronomy 12, verse 6. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, and what you have vowed to give, and your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. So we have a total of 7 offerings. 7 is a number of completion. This is a complete giving of yourself to God in all areas. And as you can see, we have tithes, which is mandatory, but we also have free will offerings and special gifts offerings. And these are not mandatory. These are from your free will, from what you consider from your own heart. So there is no before and after in this sense. It's always been different areas. There's things that have to be given, things that you can give freely, etc., etc. There's no before and after in terms of giving. These are categories. We have to understand the categories, the mechanisms for each category, how they function, how we put them into function, because it's part of us. It's part of our relationship with God. It's not just faith, it's also knowledge. I think it's in the book of Hosea where God says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, not for lack of faith, not for lack of love. I think this is what happened with the 5 foolish virgins. There wasn't a lack of love or purity. They were virgins just like the other virgins. It was a lack of knowledge, of preparation, of understanding. So tithing correctly brings protection, physical protection. The law of God through the new covenant brings physical protection. Faith in Jesus, faith in his word brings protection also. I recommend covering all bases: the heart, the mind, the body, the soul, understanding the mechanisms for each area, for each dimension, understanding how they work together, how they work separately, and not just thinking it's all faith. Faith cancels everything else that was given prior. Just have faith, like, just add water. Not exactly. Faith is very important, but do not forget all the other elements, all the other instructions, and just know how it all works and how it all clicks together. So yeah, that's my recommendation in a general sense. Definitely not saying that because Savannah's mother did not practice the law that this happened to her. I'm not saying that, but bad things exist in this world, bad people, evil people who do evil things, and it's just best to have all areas covered. Okay? Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.